people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. It would seem that newly crowned WBC minimum weight champion Yokasta Valle has landed her first assignment as WBC champion and a two-time champion at this weight overall. The WBC ordered Yokasta Valle versus Umi Ishikawa
of Japan,
with a tentative fight date set for February 22nd in the United States. If you're talking about a fight here stateside, you're talking about a Golden Boy Promotions show. Yokasta Valle does her own shows in her native Costa Rica, but due to her extended relationship with Golden Boy Promotions, that enables her to fight here in America. And she's a great example of how you shouldn't wait too long to get back out there off a loss. So earlier this year, in March, she squared off against Senicia Estrada for what was the undisputed championship in the minimum weight division. And she lost the competitive decision, but it didn't take Yokasta long to get back out there. She got back out there in July, and she just got back out there again last month. So she's on a 2-fight winning streak, having lost to Senicia earlier this year. Now she is set to face Umi Ishikawa early next year, sporting a professional record of 12 wins with 3 losses, no draws, 10 knockouts, having been knocked out once in 15 professional bouts. Noticeably less experienced than 3-division champion Yokasta Valle, who sports a professional record of 32 wins with 3 losses, no draws, 10 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 35 professional bouts spread across 3 divisions. On paper, Yokasta's got her beat in every department. Not only does she have more fights, more rounds in the bank, thus more experience, but it's against a higher tier, a higher quality of competition overall. These girls that Umi has been fighting are mostly local girls. I mean, I know she's got a lot of knockouts. More than Yokasta, but Yokasta regularly fights better fighters than Umi does. Who you fight matters. And Yokasta has fought better fighters. So Umi Ishikawa has spent the entirety of her boxing career in the Far East. She's fought in Japan, she's fought in the Philippines, and she's fought in Thailand. This fight will be her U.S. debut. 40 years old, though she doesn't look it. Wait, so not only is she less experienced than Yokasta, she's also older. Currently on a 5-fight winning streak, and every single one of those fights she won by way of knockout. But the thing is, look at those girls' records, look at who they are, and it's not hard to see how Umi is racking up so many knockouts. The talent level of her opponents, it's just not there. These are just local girls in Thailand, where she's spent the last few years fighting. So she'll be fighting in America next, making her U.S. debut. Yokasta's gonna beat her. I haven't even seen the tape on Umi yet, and I will as the fight date approaches, but first look, seems to me that Yokasta Valle would be the logical choice here. The virtue of this fight is getting this mandatory out of the way early next year in a timely fashion frees up Yokasta's schedule to pursue the other titles at the weight. As it pertains to at least one of the other titles at the weight, this weekend, Germany's own Sarah Bormann is set to fight for the WBO title, and I anticipate she's going to become WBO champion. So this is someone that Yokasta may likely go after she takes care of Umi, and I think she's going to take care of Umi. Yeah, I think she's going to beat her. So you can see, it never takes Yokasta Valle all that long to schedule a fight, and then another, and before you know it, she may go on to become this division's undisputed champion. She never got that Senicia Estrada rematch that she wanted so badly. Senicia retired. There's nothing Yokasta Valle can do about that, but in her absence, she can pick up where she left off, trying to unify this division and trying to make history for herself, her legacy, and Costa Rican boxing by becoming the first Costa Rican undisputed champion.
Said it already. In the absence of Sinicia, there are not many, if any, girls that can beat Yokasta Valle, not at minimum weight.
She's got her career back on track and she's en route to make history. Men's lightweight news. What else was revealed earlier today at the World Boxing Council's convention in Hamburg, Germany? William Zepeda update. No surgery is needed. He needs 6 to 8 weeks of rest before he can resume training. So it's entirely possible that a boxer can become injured without needing surgery. You might suffer a boxer's fracture, hairline fracture across the knuckles, and that doesn't require surgery. You just have to let that heal on its own. Not saying that that's what William Zepeda suffered in the Tevin Farmer fight. Being honest with you, I don't know what's injured. Is it a shoulder injury, an elbow injury, a hand injury? There was an image uploaded to his Instagram account with his arm in a sling.
I don't know, man.
But here's the gist of it. I never believed he was injured. By my count, this is the second time that Team Zepeda have put off a Shakur Stevenson fight. It was supposed to go down this year, then this year became next year.
No, go back.
It was initially planned for this year, but then news broke that William is either getting married or having a kid, and he couldn't fight Shakur. That was the explanation, but he did find time to fight Tevin Farmer. Gets through the Tevin Farmer fight, and just after a few days, we hear about this. We hear about some kind of an injury that doesn't actually require surgery.
Oh, isn't Shakur Stevenson injured too? Isn't he coming off a hand injury and subsequent surgery?
He is.
So then why are you so suspicious of William but not Shakur? How do you know Shakur isn't faking an injury?
Well, for starters, look at who he was supposed to fight. Look at who he was going to fight in William's place. He was going to fight Joe Cordina. Joe Cordina, who's coming off a knockout loss at 130 in his first fight at 135. No, I don't think Shakur Stevenson would fake an injury because of how dangerous a Joe Cordina fight is.
That's one.
Here's two. Turki El Sheikh himself confirmed the injury, that it occurred in sparring. He busted his hand, and they immediately flew him out for surgery. Whereas this injury that William is said to have suffered, I don't even know what it is, and I don't know what direction, what path this guy is on, because near as I can tell, if you're not fighting Shakur for his WBC,
you can't then turn around and fight Dennis Berenchik for his WBO. No, you can't. He's set to defend it against Keyshawn Davis. You can't turn around and fight Gervonta Davis. Can't fight Gervonta for his WBA because he's en route to Lamont Roach.
What about Vasyl Lomachenko? What about fighting him for his IBF?
The way it's looking, that guy might not come back. The word around town is he may retire.
The plot thickens. It was brought to my attention earlier today that the name of William Zepeda no longer appears in the WBC's ranked standings.
Raymond Muratalla is ranked at number 1 and Keyshawn Davis is ranked at number 2. Not that it matters because those two guys are going in different directions anyway.
What was brought to my attention is that the name of William Zepeda is missing from the World Boxing Council's ranked standings, and perhaps it's because they have no intention of fighting for the WBC title, for the green and gold belt. What if what they're doing is biding their time, waiting for Vasyl Lomachenko to retire so they can go that route and fight for that belt?
Wouldn't surprise me.
Oscar doesn't fancy that fight for William, even though stylistically it's a fight where he might do all right. And when you consider that Shakur Stevenson himself is coming off an injury and subsequent hand surgery, that would have been the most opportune time to fight him. So it looks like
a missed opportunity.
You're squirrely about putting William in there with an economic pure boxer that doesn't even punch that hard. You're squirrely about putting William in there with him, even though stylistically it's a good fight for William. But if you're squirrely about that,
the lightweight division is a minefield.
If you're squirrely about putting him in there with Shakur, who are you going to put him in there with? You can't protect him from everyone.
It's ridiculous.
I saw former champion Tevin Farmer take to his social media and start talking about his Zepeda rematch again. Can we expect to see that?
We might, because he's not fighting Shakur. Yokasta Valle's next fight is set to go down February 22nd, and I don't think she's going to be the headliner. Could the headline fight, could the main event be a Zepeda versus Farmer rematch?
They said that William Zepeda can resume training, quote-unquote resume training, in 6 to 8 weeks. February 22nd is more than 8 weeks from now.
What are you saying?
That if William Zepeda ends up coming back in late February, for Tevin Farmer or somebody else, it's going to be very obvious that you weren't injured, you just faked an injury. You faked it so you could get out of the Stevenson fight.
You can think Shakur Stevenson is boring, you may not like his fights, but one way or another, that doesn't make it okay for William to swerve him. And that's how this is looking.
A duck is a duck. I'm not going to dress it up because you like him or live down the street from him or whatever you got going on. It just looks funny, and I don't presume to be a fortune teller, but I am going to be paying close attention to what Williams' next move is, because these are very bad optics. What other orders came down at the World Boxing Council's annual convention earlier today? The World Boxing Council ordered Christian Mbilli versus Jaime Munguia to fight for the interim title. Saul Canelo Alvarez is permitted a voluntary. Eye of the Tiger, who promotes Christian Mbilli, thanked the WBC for Mbilli and Munguia and said Ocelis Iglesias, ranked 5th, is ready to fight anyone, anytime, and that he wants the biggest fight possible. Luka Plantic will fight to be the mandatory for the interim title.
What?
The winner of Mbilli versus Munguia, if there is one, becomes the mandatory challenger for the full WBC title, and Luka Plantic will be fighting to become the mandatory for the interim.
A curious situation for Jaime Munguia, who will be seeing action for the 4th time this year, south of the border in his native Tijuana, in what is his 2nd consecutive fight on the ESPN platform. Oscar De La Hoya said that it was just a one and done with Eric Bazinian. That clearly isn't the case. Fernando Beltran seems to have some kind of arrangement with Top Rank for Jaime's fights to appear on ESPN.
It's not a one and done like Oscar said. Not if he's having his 2nd consecutive fight on the ESPN platform and not DAZN like he used to.
Right.
So I wonder if Fernando Beltran, given what rumors are swirling out there in the boxing cosmos, is now regretting his decision to move Jaime from DAZN over to ESPN at a time where they're rumored to be leaving boxing. And we've talked about this in several videos already, that the existing Top Rank deal that they inked way back there in 2018 is set to be up next year. And some speculate that ESPN may not renew.
We don't know for sure. It's too early to tell, because another deal that's supposed to be up next year is the UFC deal. They're supposed to be leaving for either Netflix or Amazon, one of them.
What the hell does that have to do with boxing?
Well, if the UFC leaves ESPN, the money they were pouring into that, they might then pour into their boxing content, their boxing program, and they might re-up with Top Rank after all. Or they can reach an amended deal where Top Rank shows are shown on ESPN and some other platform. The bottom line is we don't know yet if ESPN is leaving boxing.
But it's still a very curious time to have funneled Jaime Munguia from DAZN over to Top Rank on the premise that these rumors are out there, and I do wonder if Fernando is now regretting that decision. And what's the bottom line here? Why did he take him over there? It was likely because he wanted his fighter fighting on the biggest sports network in this country. But if the biggest sports network leaves boxing, so he's going to be fighting this Sriracha guy, whatever his name is, and you figure that this is just another maintenance fight. This is just another keep busy fight with a keep busy kind of opponent in Sriracha or Socorro or whatever his name is. And presumably afterwards, he could move into an interim title fight with Christian Mbilli. And I think that's the play here. I think that's the bottom line, that Top Rank wants to put that together between Zenfer and Eye of the Tiger management, with Top Rank acting as the facilitator.
What do you mean you think? The WBC just ordered it. What's to think about?
Just because the WBC ordered it doesn't mean it's going to happen. I remember well over a year ago, the WBC ordered Isaac Cruz to fight Shakur Stevenson. We didn't get that fight. Then they ordered Frank Martin to fight Shakur Stevenson, and we didn't get that one either. So just because they ordered this one, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. I understand that both Christian Mbilli and Jaime Munguia are affiliated with Top Rank, but you never really know until the fight is made, until the fight is done. And the fight is not done. All that happened is an order came down. Will the fighters abide by that order?
It's an excellent fight if they do. It pits pressure fighter versus pressure fighter to see who's better with that base style.
It's arguably the most fan-friendly stylistic matchup you can make. Mauler versus Mauler, brawler versus brawler, pressure versus pressure. And who's got more firepower? Is it Jaime or is it Christian?
There is a slight difference in how both these pressure fighters go about applying pressure. What you get from Christian is constant. He's on top of you all 3 minutes of the round. For better or worse, this guy's not gonna leave you alone. Whereas Jaime fights in spurts, in bursts.
With Jaime, there are breaks in the action, but once he goes for a shot, he goes for another, and another, then another, and another. It's not uncommon for Jaime to try for 4 and 5 punch combinations, but it's intermittent. It's in bursts.
Not constant like Christian.
I think it's safe to say that Jaime is the more experienced fighter of the two, having been a world champion at 154, spent a little time at 160. He's at 168 now, so he's arguably the smaller fighter that moved up in weight,
Even though he doesn't look it.
having been in there with the likes of a hard-nosed Liam Smith, a hard-nosed Takeshi Inui, in more recent years, Sergey Derevyanchenko. It's a common opponent between Jaime and Christian.
Sergey is. They both fought him. When Jaime fought him, he looked better than Christian did.
Jaime has more fights, more rounds in the bank, and he's fought better fighters so far than Christian has. I give a slight edge to Jaime Munguia. Not only do I think he punches harder than Christian, single punching power, I think Jaime's punches are more damaging, but I also think that Jaime has a better engine and more durability.
What is that based on?
In terms of power, punching power, do you remember what he did to Turiano Johnson's lip?
Yeesh.
Comparing his performance against Sergey to Christian's performance against Sergey, Jaime's punches look more damaging, more hurtful.
Jaime's stamina.
I do think he has better fitness than Christian Mbilli, mostly because his pressure is intermittent, whereas Christian's is constant. And I've seen Christian tire. I've seen Christian slow down. Think about durability. Jaime earlier this year was in there for 36 minutes with Canelo Alvarez.
Yeah, he got knocked down, but he didn't get knocked out.
Fought Gabe Rosado a ways back. And when he fought Gabe, he didn't get knocked out like Bektemir Melenkuziev got knocked out. So I think Jaime takes a better punch, shows better powers of recovery, and if nothing else, he is the more experienced fighter of the two. If they make this fight, I'm leaning towards Jaime to win by way of knockout.
In the gun fight at the gun show, I think Jaime's got the bigger guns.
Because one thing's for goddamn sure. These ain't finesse fighters, these two guys. They ain't coming for a boxing match. They're coming for a brawl.
I figure.
What?
Christian's gonna try to put the pressure on Jaime that he puts on other guys, and that's a mistake. Against a bigger puncher than you are?